Hello, this is Ben, and welcome to another set of development diary, hopeful series of videos. A few things a few bits of housekeeping to get along with. I'm sorry, I've not been posting videos. I've not had the motivation really to do it. I suppose gaming ones are fun if you know what you're doing and if people enjoy watching them, but I don't know either way really at the moment, whether I enjoy making them or if you enjoy watching them. But it's hard to say really. And secondly, the Digger series I was doing ages ago. It must have been a year. Which I know some people did want to get a demo of, or at least a version of it. For one, I'm not currently developing that anymore. It's been a long time since I've done any C++, which is what I wrote it in. And I don't know what sort of state it's in at the moment either. It's saved on my hard drive. I can look at it any time. So I'll be looking into it, whether I can actually get a version for you lot to play if you want. I will be trying to develop I am in the middle of developing a website to host it on and to sort of act as a portfolio piece. But that's not for this video. This video is sort of a new game I've been developing, which is I've had a lot of ideas in my head for a while for a game I want to do, and this is sort of the engine building of it at the moment. It's going to be a turn-based strategy game akin to Final Fantasy Tactics and the Tactics Advanced, but so generally on an isometric grid. So we have this here at the moment, and you can see that there's a solid sort of platform area here, and then a transparent one just above it. Now, what I've seen in a lot of turn-based strategy games on the sort of isometric grid is you don't get the sort of multiple layers of field essentially. So I'm trying to actually recreate that. So if I click on, if I press the left bumpers, you can see that the bottom one that is now greyed out and the top one is in bold colours. Bold colours. And this is sort of the second level up. I think it's about 10, a height of 10. I suppose I should put that down somewhere on the screen in the GUI. I'll make a note of that. But this is just a second level up. So if then I left bumper, I go down again. Now this barrel here is a barrel. It's a bit of a towel barrel. It's not shaded very well, but that's what it's supposed to be. Is my temporary testing object at the minute. In the end, it would be a sort of a bit in the map which couldn't move but maybe get destroyed. But for the moment, it's my testing for movement and probably other such actions. But if I press A, debug stuff, forgot about that. Right, you can see that there's now a lot of blue on the screen. These are where you can move to, and if I move up, you can also see there's some up here as well. So what it is doing is going, right, I'm on this one, and I can move one space this way, but then I can move. Is that right? Yeah, that must be right. It's been so long since I've seen this. It's a bit weird. Oh no, that's from one up there, and then I can move to there in 2 spaces, so I can jump up to the next level. So then I can move over to there. Well, that was the other way around, but you sort of get what I mean. And you can just see the little barrel hops around to where it's supposed to go. Now, I think there is a slight bug in it at the minute where when you get the space to hop, you might jump through the floor. I think I've seen it a couple of times, but I can't quite remember. So I need to work out that. In the next version, I think I'll definitely remove those numbers. They shouldn't be there at all. But hopefully that'll be ironed out any sort of bugs that there could be. That was a perfect example. I think I jumped through there to there. I'll probably re-watch that and just to make sure. But I need to iron that out. I think it's just because of how I'm checking where a valid path is. Because that should be empty, like that one there that you can't hover over. But that's the first part of this. I mean, the map itself, you can have as many floors as you can in the array. I've only put 2 in at the minute. I don't think I'd have more than 3. I mean, I've got an idea for a sort of a spiral staircase level where hopefully you can just merge the 2 levels together so that it looks like a nice spiral. And that's a plan for one of the levels. But the next part of the system is the actual magic bit, or magic and skills. And I did this, I suppose it was before I moved out. That was 6 months ago. I actually did the sort of design for the code, created the algorithm. But I've done a bit of a more graphical representation on this screen. Now, if you know the game Magica, it was a PC release, I think. It might have been on the Xbox. Or was it? No, I think it just used Xbox controller. But anyway, that had a magic system where you typed in certain elements into the keyboard and then pressed a mouse key and it created a spell. Now I've sort of done the same sort of thing, but it's not a dynamic sense for the turn-based strategy. It's more of you just create the spell. Well, it's procedurally created based on whatever gems you put in. So on the left is a debug string for the current pattern that the spell will be created. So the first, it's 0 length because that's the way computer scientists do indexing in arrays. So 0 is the top, and then going clockwise round you have 1 to 6. So, and then on the right you have the current spell the current gem you are sort of highlighting. So it consists of an element and a level. If I move up on the analog stick, you go through up and down, you go through each element, and then if I press right I go up a level and left I go down a level. So if I just stick in a fire spell, you can see in the first one there's a rather poorly drawn gem. I drew them in 32 by 32 at first and then thought that's far too small and had to do it 64 by 64, but instead of doing it nicely I just scaled it up. So they will be improved, don't worry about that. And then on the left you now see a sort of debug of what's in the first slot. So if I move to water level 2, it's now a bit bigger and it's now blue. Brown earth, purple air. It's supposed to be light yellow that, but you can't really tell for light. Dark is dark grey, I think it needs to be darker, and then poison is olive green, which looks quite nice, but then is a bit weird. So all 7 gems are in place at the moment, and if I press A again, you see on the left that we now have a list of all the damage that we've done from this spell. So what is happening is that it's checking the first gem in the sequence and then saying, okay, that's a fire spell. It deals a random amount of damage based on the level of the gem and just a random number in itself. So it's probably because it was a level 1 fire spell, it was probably fairly bad. Then it goes on to the next in the sequence. Now in this case it's an easy one because it's just 0 to 6. So we go fire to water. Now, when it's adding the water damage, it checks if there's anything of the opposing element in it, which to fire is water, and says, right, I need to do something with that. Depending on which is the higher value, it will reduce the added value. So in this case, water has more damage than fire. So the fire damage is reduced by however much water is, and then the remaining water damage, if any, is added on. In a scenario that, say, no water damage is actually added, it will be added on as 0 damage, but I'm debating whether I want it to actually appear or not. My thought is that if you have a counter ability as such, and it's reactant to a certain type of damage, whether the counter should actually react to it, even if there's no damage from that element. And then we move around to earth and air, the same sort of rule applies, because they are opposing values. Then we get to light and dark, which is sort of the opposite situation, where the random values just didn't work out in dark's favour, even though dark is a level 6 gem and light is only level 5. So the light just had a better roll and got more damage. And then poison has no opposing elements at the minute, so that was fine. But if I remove all these and let's make a let's do fire, 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 earth, 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 earth again. Now, what's happening here is that if you have gems of the same element inside a sequence, well, in sequence with each other, there will be a multiplier applied to those, the gem which is currently being applied. So for the first gem, there'll be no bonus applied. For the second gem, I think it's times by a quarter. Not times, well, add a quarter onto the current damage. And then for the third gem in the sequence, plus half of that. But if you sort of break the sequence with another gem of a different type, then the sequence is broken and it'll have to start again from a new sequence of elements. And that's about it, really. I mean, the next thing on this screen is to remove all the debug information and sort of make it nice for your selection of the gem. In the final game, instead of sort of having just selecting a element and a level, you would be collecting these gems, and I'm debating with myself, and I'll probably chat with some other people about their ideas about this, about whether the gems should be consumed when you create a spell. I mean, that would increase the rarity of some of the higher level gems, and then if you're crafting them together, or whether to just have it so that you just keep all the gems but they're much rarer. I've not quite decided that yet. And then for the sequence itself, I was going to have it so that maybe sort of a pulsating line would be drawn between each of the sockets, so that you could see what sort of pattern it looks like. So in this one it would be a near septagon, apart from 6 and 0 would not be drawn. Well, the line between the 6 and 0 would not be drawn because it's not part of the sequence. It doesn't go all the way background. You would have to say 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 0 for it to be the entire circular pattern. But that's about it really for this current update. I'm starting to try and do these videos again so I can get a bit more motivation to work on it really. I mean, if I can show people how I'm doing and people are enjoying it and want to see it nearly completed, nearly completed is a bad way to say it, see it completed to a certain extent, whether it's just the engine, whether it's a fully fledged game. I'm making it using C# and XNA, so I know what I'm doing. Well, I know what I'm doing because I've used XNA for years and C# for just as long. So hopefully that'll be fun. It'll be fine to get the engine finished. It will then be trying to create a storyboard, getting all the characters created, and having everything look nice, which I think will be my biggest issue. But that's for future time. Thank you very much for watching, if you watched it all the way through. And I will see you whenever I have another update for this. Bye bye.